half of chapter 2, starting with verse 14, going through verse 26. So James 2, 14 to 26. And as you know, we've been on a journey with James, right? James is trying to take us from one place to someplace else, and that someplace else looks more like Christ. And today, the focus of the back half here is work and faith. Faith and work. And we're going to spend the whole next half hour going through this: work and faith, faith and work. And as I think about my job today is basically this: to get you in a half hour to, whenever you think of the word work, you think of faith. And whenever you think of the word faith, you think of work. Kind of like famous combinations or famous duos over time. So when I say peanut butter, you might think jelly, right? Or Batman goes with Robin, or bacon, and pretty much anything, right? Like, that's what I want you guys to be doing with work and faith. When I say work, I want you to think faith. And when I say faith, I want you to think work. That's my whole focus for the next half hour, and I think that's James' focus here at the back half of James chapter 2. So let's get into it first with verse 14, when he writes, "What good is it, my brothers and sisters, if you say you have faith, but do not have works? Can faith save you?" Pretty challenging words from James. And one of his points is to remind us that our work, the work we do for the Lord, the work serving other people, accompany our faith, right? We shouldn't think of them as competing things at all, right? That our work actually proves our faith, right? If you ever wonder if someone, where they are in their walk, are they a mature believer, are they a newer believer? One of the best ways you can tell is watch what they do. Watch who they serve. Watch how they serve. Watch how they live their lives. James is saying, you want to know where someone is on their faith, don't just ask them what they think or feel. Watch what they do. Watch who they're serving. Our works prove our faith. It's as if it's evidence of what we believe. Now, before we get too far down this road with James, though, I want you to understand this isn't just an idea we get from James. I think we tend to put James like in his own little category, like, oh yeah, James is just tough. James is intense. James didn't come up with this. Jesus did. I'm going to show you a couple of verses where Jesus says the same thing, starting with Matthew 5:16. Jesus said, "In the same way, let your light shine before others, so that they may see your good works and give glory to your Father in heaven." So Jesus is saying here that our light isn't just a joy that comes out of our eyes, although it is. It isn't just a smile. The light that comes out of us is actually what we do for other people. Our light is our service to other people, right? Don't just see your faith. He says, let them see your good works. And when they see that, they give glory not to us, of course, but to our Father in heaven. Then, 2 chapters later, Jesus turns it up a little bit. In Matthew 7:21, we get Jesus saying, "Not everyone who says to me, 'Lord, Lord,' will enter the kingdom of heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven." I've never seen this one on a bumper sticker. It's a tough one, right? One that I think, frankly, for most of us, we kind of step around it. Like, did Jesus really say that? Yeah, he really said that. And what he means is this: is that not everyone who refers to me, who believes that I am the Lord, I am the ruler, will join me in heaven, but only the one who does the will of my Father in heaven. This should challenge all of us. When Jesus is essentially saying to us, if you believe in me, prove it. Let the world see it. Because, by the way, those who refer to Jesus as Lord, Lord would include the demons. Right? And we're going to get into this. Some of the first people to recognize Jesus were demons. Referred to him as Lord, Lord. We're, of course, called to be more than that. We're called to be the opposite, actually. Demons were trying to draw people away from God. We're called, of course, to draw people to him. But yes, Jesus said this, and this is the basis for James' idea that we're supposed to prove our faith Not just in calling Jesus Lord, but in acting like it, following our Lord, living like he wants us to live. So James gets going a little bit further in 15 through 17 when he says, if a brother or sister is naked and lacks daily food, and one of you says to them, go in peace, keep warm, and eat your fill, and yet you do not supply their bodily needs, what is the good of that? So faith by itself, if it has no works, is dead. So we get this example here, right, of going up to someone who has a need, and you just talk to them, but you don't actually help them. I think of it this way. Well wishes don't do the dishes. All right? If you walk into your house and you see that you've got dishes there, you can't walk up to, I don't know, your roommate or your spouse or your kids and be like, hey, I hope that goes well for you. It's not going to be well received, and it's not going to take care of the dishes. Right? That's a tiny example. But we do this all the time with people. I really hope that goes well with you. And yeah, it's good to encourage people. It is. And it's good to pray for other people. But what if instead of just wishing them well, we made them well? What if you said, I hope that goes well for you, and how can I help? Is there anything I can do? Yes, I will be there. Because yes, we're called to encourage, and we're called to pray. Those are good things. But we're called to back that up with our action. Don't just wish people well, make them well. That's why James is calling us to prove our faith, to see faith in action. And he uses a word here, the word good, that how can we make other people and be seen as good? And this word good is ophelos. And it means good or benefit or an advantage, or actually our word profit. But the profit or the advantage of our faith isn't for me, right? My faith shouldn't necessarily be advantageous or profitable to me. My faith should be good and profitable to you. Our faith should be good and profitable to this community. Our faith should be good and profitable to each other. That's the profit we're seeking, not profit for myself, but directed towards other people. Think about it this way. Your faith is proven by those you help. Your faith is proven by those you help. Not just what you think, not just what you feel, not necessarily how many verses in this book you can memorize, although that's good. James is saying, how many verses in this book can you live out? The people who can say, I'm so grateful to God because of you, what you've done in my life, that's proof of your faith. That's a useful, profitable faith. Faith proven by those that we help. And this is why James, I think, uses this word, faith without works is dead. Dead. Tough word, right? Harsh word. But think about it in a little bit of a different sense. It's as if our faith needs to work. So our faith needs movement. And if you don't believe this, think about just the physical body. Now, if you guys were to stay and sit here all day long, one, you wouldn't be very happy with me. But two, you would start to hurt after a while, wouldn't you? Because we're not designed to sit around. We're actually not even designed to lay around. The body is designed to move. That's the way God created us, is to move. And if we don't move, if we don't stretch, if we don't work, we can actually atrophy. The same goes for your faith. Don't let your faith atrophy, right? Read these words and then get out and live them. Think about it a slightly different way. So if you've ever been at a point where you've tried to lose weight and you think, I'm going to go and I'm going to get a gym membership, right? So I can go and lose weight. You can't walk in, get your membership, right? Walk back out the door and think, all right, I'm good, I'm going to lose 20 pounds. It doesn't work that way, right? You can't just get the membership in the gym. You got to get in and work out. It's the same for your church membership. Just being a part of a church isn't going to help all that much if you don't go, if you don't serve, if you don't live this out. Just as you're called to work out your body in whatever capacity, we're called to work out our faith. And when we don't, we lose it. And this is why he's saying the faith without our works is dead. Let's let God move through us, move these words through us, not just here, but in this community. And I want you to understand what's at stake here. James isn't saying that works is more important than faith. Not at all. He's not pitting those two together. He's not saying, oh yeah, this is works versus faith. That's not what this is about. This is about a living faith versus a dead faith. And a living faith is one that works. A living faith is one that other people can see. Not just because we think it or we feel it, but they actually see us living a different way, a called out way, a selfless way, a forgiving way, a gracious way, a truthful way. Versus a dead faith, which would be anyone who says, I believe, but no one can tell. James is calling us to have a living faith, one that people can see in our actions, our behavior, and our works. Which brings us back to this Paul and James thing. Remember we talked about this before? And how people see a huge conflict between Paul and James. Again, there's not a huge conflict, it's a difference in focus. Paul's focus was saying that you have to believe in Jesus and that saves you. Right? I can't earn it, I can't work it off. And that's true. That is absolutely true. And I think James would agree with that. That we have to say that the only thing that saves me is what Jesus did in the past on the cross. And I believe that now. James would completely agree with that. James, I think, is saying, okay, if you believe that, prove it. Follow him. Let me see it now. Let me see it in your present. Let me see it in your future. James is saying, Jesus didn't call the disciples and say, do you want to come hang out with me and stay in one place and teach them a class? It's not what happened, right? He said, follow me. And then he left, and they went with him. Jesus was a man of action. He called us to action, to follow. So James and Paul don't have this huge fight between them. James is saying, if you believe in Jesus, our belief should look like our behavior and what we do every day, now and in the future, when we continue to prove that we believe in Jesus Christ. So in verse 18, he gives a little example and says, but someone will say, you have faith, and I have works. Show me your faith apart from your works, and I, by my works, will show you my faith. I love this little challenge that he gives. And what he's saying is kind of consistent with what we've been talking about, that our works reveal our faith. Our works are evidence of our faith. People should know that we believe in Jesus Christ because we act like him. Let me put it slightly differently. Our unexpressed faith is not going to lead people to Christ. Just because I believe in Jesus, like in my head or in my heart, that's not going to lead anyone else to Jesus. Now, if I go out and live his grace and his forgiveness and his truth and his selflessness, that might get them there, right? And only God gets to ultimately be the one that pulls them in through the Spirit. But he uses us as his examples. We need to express it. We need to live this faith out. It's when we live him out that we bring people his direction. It's not just that we believe it here or that we're part of a church. We need to live that church out, live his body out. Sunday morning, Sunday afternoon, and the rest of the week. Your works reveal and prove your faith. I don't know if you guys have heard this old quote. It's actually anonymous. No one knows who came up with this. Don't ask God to guide your footsteps if you aren't willing to move your feet. Don't ask God to guide your footsteps if you aren't willing to move your feet. It's a good thing, of course, right, to go to God and say, God, what do you want me to do in this situation? But then when you hear from him and he tells you, don't look at him and be like, really? He wants you to do it. And sometimes, yes, his answer is going to shock you, and yes, sometimes his answer is going to be hard, but that doesn't mean it's not him. You always check it against this word, right? God is saying to us, yes, I will tell you what to do, but when I do it. Don't ask God to guide your footsteps if you aren't willing to move your feet. And I can tell you from experience, because I haven't always done this, right? Remember, it took 4 calls to get me into ministry. I was stubborn. I pushed back. But I will tell you, when you start doing this, watch how often you will hear from him and he gives you more instructions. because you're tried and true, right? You've proven to him now. When he says things, you will do it. So just watch over time. And by the way, we can always lose it, right, by not listening, right, pulling a Jonah. But man, when you do this, it's amazing how God will now continue to guide you and give you instruction, hoping that you will follow and move your feet and go where he wants us to go to reveal our faith in him. Verse 19, James really turns it up. He writes, "You believe that God is one. You do well. Even the demons believe and shudder." All right, so you got to remember that this group of people who received this, right, this is the scattered Jews. And the Jews, it was a big deal for them to believe in God as one. And the reason for that, of course, is the Jews were surrounded by people that believed in multiple gods. So it was a true thing, and it was a good thing for Jews to believe that God is one. But James is saying here, good job, even demons believe that God is one. In other words, that's not good enough. And you know the other thing that's crazy about James bringing up the demon example? You know how we know that the demons believed? They shuddered. Demons actually showed they were scared of the Lord Jesus Christ. Even the demons, my point is, even the demons, they had action behind their faith. Now, of course, they didn't finish it off and believe and draw people towards him. That's what we're called to do. But even demons, when they believed in Jesus Christ, you could see it by their actual behavior. That's what we're concerned about. People's actions, their behavior, not just their beliefs. Anyone, even a demon, can believe in the Lord. We're called to something more than that. Next few verses, James continues to turn it up. He says, "Do you want to be shown, you senseless person, that faith apart from works is barren? Was not our ancestor justified by works when he offered his son Isaac on the altar? You see that faith was active along with his works, and faith was brought to completion by the works. Thus the scripture was fulfilled that says, Abraham believed God, and it was reckoned to him as righteousness. And he was called the friend of God. You see that a person is justified by works and not by faith alone." So James uses this word senseless, not a nice, encouraging word. And the word senseless is kinos, and it means senseless or empty or vain. If we say that we believe in Jesus Christ but don't live it out, this is us. Kinos, senseless, empty, vain. It's like people who are part of an organization or members in something but never go, right? They never take part in that organization. They aren't active in representing that organization. We are called to be active in representing Christ. And if we're not, we're this. We're senseless, we're empty, and we're vain. And another example to give you, when he talked about the word barren, right, that we are barren if we don't live this out, this word here is argos. Also translated idle, or inactive, or lazy. Now, I got an image for, an idol. I started to think about a car, right? And I was up in Portland just a couple days ago, and they have this sign. I don't know if you guys have seen this sign, but it says idle-free zone. Turn your engine off. And, of course, they've put this giant image of, like, this little girl right behind a car just cranking out plumes of smoke, and then it says young lungs at work. Now, it's a little exaggerated, right? But it's true. Cars aren't supposed to run idle. And if you've had a car, you know that you're not supposed to leave it on and let it sit for a long time. It's not good for your car. Our bodies are no different, and our faith is no different. We're not supposed to run idle. We're not called to wake up and stay in bed all day. We're called to get up, we're called to move, we're called to serve, we're called to give, right? To live this out. Don't stay idle. You don't do it to your car, don't do it to yourself personally. And then James gives us this excellent example of Abraham, which to this group of scattered Jews, right, would have been really important, right? This is Father Abraham. But the example he gives for Abraham is a very tangible, active example. Abraham did a lot of things. But the example he uses here of his willingness to sacrifice his son was a big one, right? Abraham didn't just say he believed in the Lord God. He was willing to give his son to God. He proved his faith because he was willing to sacrifice his own son. Something awesome happened in that story, though. If you remember, God didn't require him to actually give his son. The very last minute, God came in and saved Abraham's son, which notably God didn't do right with his own son. But he saw that Abraham was willing, and at the very last minute, he responded to Abraham and saved Isaac. This, for me, is a beautiful part of who God is. God responds to the work we do for him. This faith relationship we have, it's not a one-way thing. It's a two-way relationship. God calls us, he instructs us, right? And we get this word. And he says, go do it. And then when we go do it, he responds to us. He works with us. My favorite image, just for me personally, is the dance. I think of my relationship with God like a dance. So I am not a good dancer. That's not my point. But when I think about two people dancing, I think about how elegant and beautiful that is. And if you don't believe this, right, look at the number of reality shows on television that involve people dancing. And it's a beautiful thing when you watch two people dance and move together. And when I think about my relationship with God, that's what it looks like. So for example, right, if I'm dancing with my wife and I take a step forward, to do it right, she's going to have to take a step back. And then if I draw my foot back, she's got to take and have her foot do the opposing thing. And if I'm going to go left, she's going to go right. And you move around and around. And we love to watch this. Why? Because it's two people acting as one. And it's a beautiful thing to watch people work together like this. This is what the world wants to see from us and God. He calls, we listen. He says, go, we go. Watch what he does with us in these situations. It's amazing how he responds to us. He wants to live through us more tomorrow than he even does today. And if you've been a part of this, you know how beautiful this can feel. When you're dancing with him, when you're moving with him, you watch him respond to him. That's what Abraham did. And that's what we are called to do. And another thing, we get this word here of completion. You guys remember we talked about this word teleo? And I found this corny image of a donut hole running at a donut saying, you complete me. And I think without the donut, this is kind of what James was getting at with this issue of completion. Our works complete our faith. So it's as if our faith alone isn't enough, right? There's a hole there. There's something missing. And it's our work. It's our service. It's living it out. That's the thing that completes it or makes it perfect. Right? That's what makes us perfect. Not because we live perfect lives, although we're called to be just as Jesus was. What makes us perfect or complete is actually living out our belief in Jesus Christ. Letting the world see him through us in our service, our sacrifice, and our grace. Now there's a bit of a controversial term here that's used that James uses to describe Abraham's relationship with God. And I want to bring it up because it comes up only a couple times in the Bible, but I've seen it a lot more recently in a song that's become very popular. You guys familiar with the song, I'm a Friend of God? A couple of you? Okay. Well, if you're not, good. Stay that way. I am not a fan of that song for one reason. It's an uplifting song. It's an encouraging song. But there's something that song doesn't make clear. That the reason Abraham is a friend of God is because he was obedient. If you look in the Bible, every time the word friend is used in relation to God, every time that person was obedient to God. And that song just says, I am a friend of God, regardless of obedience and regardless of whether I follow him. That's not what the Bible says. So again, an uplifting song, it's good, right, to think that we can be close to God. But also for me personally, when I think of a friend, I think of like a buddy, like an equal, someone I kind of put my arm around. God's up here. I'm down here. He's my Father. He's my Lord. He's my Creator. Friend, I want him close, but I need him up here, and I need me down here. So to me, it's a dangerous concept. I just need to make sure you guys understand that the Bible is very clear about this, that we get to be friends of God only when we are obedient, like Abraham was obedient. Verse 25, James uses a more controversial example when he says, likewise, was not Rahab the prostitute always also justified by works when she welcomed the messengers and sent them out by another road? So for the people hearing this message, Abraham, pretty easy example for them. Rahab, not so much, right? Because she was a prostitute and she was disobedient, so surely she can't be a faith example, right? Nope. James says she was justified. He actually uses the word justified. By what? Her works. Rahab proved her faith because she helped God's people. I don't know why people still, back in this day, love to throw stones at prostitutes. Like that sin was greater than any other sin. Which I think that's exactly why Jesus used the example he did with the adulterer. Like, we can't put any sin over another sin. And Rahab's a beautiful example for us. Awesome. So even Rahab can be justified by her works, regardless of the other stuff she did. That means me. And all the stuff I did that I shouldn't have done. I can have faith if God can see it lived out through what I do. Rahab is actually a beautiful, inclusive example for all of us, the imperfect ones who get to have faith too, not because of anything we've done, because we live it out, because we're helping God's people, which is exactly what Rahab did. Verse 26, as we close out the chapter, James writes, "For just as the body without the spirit is dead, so faith without works is also dead." James gives us one more example, one more metaphor, one more image of what he's trying to say to us. That work is our faith alive. If you've ever seen a body, right, once someone has passed away, once someone has died, this is something for me personally that's a bit hard and challenging, whether it's loved ones, family members I've seen. I struggle a little bit to see a person's body once that person is dead, because they're gone. Once someone dies, that body is empty, right? It's bones and it's flesh. And I recognize that it was them. But the person I talked to, the person I loved, they're gone, right? The body without the spirit is dead. Similar to our faith without our works is dead. So in other words, don't become a spiritual carcass. Don't let people just see something that might believe something or feel a certain way, but actually prove it in the way we live our lives, being active. Faith without works is dead. Now, as you're contemplating all of this, I hope that this is the question that's going through your mind and your heart. And I actually put it in your outline for all of us to consider as we finish out today. Who are you serving? Who are you serving? And you can fill it out now, or you can fill it out later. But I would encourage you just to use this list. And you'll notice I only put like 3 or 4 spaces, right? For you to write down, who is it that you're selflessly giving of your time to? Why? Because they're evidence. They're proof that your faith is alive and active. And if you're looking at that short list and you can't fill it out, this should be convicting for all of us. We say, man, I better get to it. I got some more to do. I got some more to serve, right? That should be an ever-rotating, ever-lengthening list. My hope and goal with my time here is every week, almost every week, if not every week, to be able to get up here and have a different service opportunity for all of us, a different way for us to work, to live our faith out. Because this list that you're looking at, it should be an ever-lengthening list of the people you are serving, because they are the living proof of your faith in God. And as we close today, we're going to take communion, which is the ultimate example, right, of faith at work. Jesus came, which was an incredible thing, but he didn't just stop there with his mere presence. He wasn't just a wandering person who was a great teacher, and he wasn't just a great healer, and he didn't just tell awesome stories that at times were hard to understand. He did all of that, but there had to be a grand finale. He had to go out and prove his love for us by what he did. That's what we celebrate when we take communion. That's what we honor, maybe even is a better word, and when we take communion. We remember that he died for us. He was ridiculed, flogged, suffered tremendous pain, and complete injustice for something he never did. For us. That's faith at work. Let's pray. Father God, we thank you so much for the constant reminder of how you want us to live our life. We thank you for James. We thank you for the reminder this week that you call us to prove our faith to this world by our work, by our service to them, by our selflessness, by our grace, our forgiveness, our honesty, our trust, our justice. All of these things only come from you. God, may we prove who you are by what we do in this world. And I pray as the ultimate example, we'll remember what we're about to honor when we take communion. May we remember that you sent your Son to suffer and die so that we could be with you forever. I pray, God, right now as we take this bread, the body of Jesus broken for us, and this cup of juice, the blood of Jesus Christ poured out for us, we will take it in and then live him out. We love you. It's in your Son's name and through your Spirit we pray. Amen.